I'm Peggy, and we are Garden House Studio. My husband Wayne is here today helping, and we are going to be working on some picture frames. I'm going to show you a picture frame that I did with clay, it's a wooden frame. We actually made these frames because we wanted to have a place that had more than 2 inches, and most of the frames that you can buy at Michael's and at those kinds of places have a 2-inch band around them, and we wanted a 3-inch band. So we made these frames so that we could fit more of our wonderful IOD molds and trimmings on there. So this one, like I said, I made this one in 2018, and I loved making it, and I said, you know, we need to update this. So today we're going to be making some more of these picture frames, and we are going to be using the latest in the molds, which is very exciting. The new trimmings mold, which is one of the ones we're going to be using. Big, thick trimmings. In fact, I can grab a piece here because we're working with them and show you how big they are and how detailed. And this one is actually made out of resin. I'm going to be using the giant sunflower mold on my picture frame. So we're going to actually be making 2 picture frames. And one of the reasons we're going to be doing 2 at the same time is we're going to be doing one totally in clay and one totally in resin. And the resin takes about 10 minutes to set up. So in between setting up for the resin, we'll be working on clay.
I am trying to make a border around this picture frame. And these all have to be cut to fit. We're 45 in the corners, or mitering the corners, so that they look professional.
The most wonderful thing about these molds is the fact that they're interlocking, but that asset does not help us too much with when we get to these corners and we have to miter the corners. But you can't see all the different places. Maybe you could see this is where, oops, that one wasn't glued down, where this is where they're connected. It fits right inside, and he's going to show you that. They fit right inside and they interlock together. They're great. It's really amazing. There's a few places where it's not exact, but this is going to be painted, so we're not super worried about that. Can they see that one? Yep. Yep.
And it's just... it just makes a beautiful design, and so people really, it gives the appearance of one piece, but here we are, it's 2 pieces which we're fitting together to fit on the corners, and actually that's not looking bad at all.
He's a perfectionist with his corners. One of the things about the resin, and we are going to pour resin in a second, we just wanted to get this one all set, is you want to work with the resin when it's still very pliable. See how pliable this still is? It's easier to cut, it's easier to glue it down. So you kind of want to, this has just gotten solidified. So we're trying to do this pretty quickly and get it down and get it glued down. I'm going to show you all these beautiful, these are all the different castings that we just did. I just couldn't stop. I just think they're so awesome. They're just beautiful. Here's the tiniest little one, which I think is probably one of my favorites. It's this vine that kind of wraps around a, looks like a rod or something. It's really beautiful.
It's hard to cut these things. As I showed you before, using a pair of snips, and sometimes they leave a little burr. We've tried a utility knife, which does work if you catch it as soon as it comes out of the mold. I was threatening the piece to cooperate. This here would, because it's a long bladed knife, it would cut a straighter line. That's what I was looking for. But it's still, the resin is really difficult to cut, even when it's somewhat soft.
It's a heavy plastic.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to cut it right away if you're going to use it. And of course, this is going to be the hardest spot, because if you see what he's doing right now, he's got to not only match it right there where they meet, but he's also got to miter it over here in the corner.
We have 3 pieces here, actually. 1, 2, and 3, which you didn't realize was there. But again, because they match so well, you don't even notice these things. So I did the 3 of them to fit them, so I still had some wiggle room, so to speak. And now I'm just going to glue them all down and let them set for a little bit. And at that point, the resin might be ready for the next batch.
Usually we would start with the inside when we do this one first, not necessarily the outside. But I knew I was going to use this big one on the outside, and I was very anxious to cast that one.
So, there we go. And sliding this back and forth actually helps the glue adhere because it spreads it over to an even surface, so you have the whole surface that's making contact.
So here's the first finished, well, first edges that are finished. So this is the first one. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some castings so that we can begin the second row. And while that casting is setting up, we're going to work on another frame. And I'm going to show you exactly how you make the casting with the Amazing resin. Okay, so here it is. So I went and got these little containers. The Amazing resin comes with these little containers, and I managed to crack them and break them pretty easily. So I went on Amazon and I got these, which are much heavier dutier, much more heavy duty, and they have really nice increments along the side that you can watch, that you can see very clearly. So when you're doing the resin, you get an A and a B, and that is literally what they're called. And you mix A and you mix B together exactly the same amount, and you mix them really, really thoroughly. Okay. All right, so let me make this one and that one. My head has to be down so I could see exact, because you don't want to mix too much. And that's the first one, the yellow one.
Yep, that's exactly 50-50 mix.
50-50. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this one.
It's just funny.
I don't want that thing coming out.
20 millimeters of this and 20 millimeters of that.
I know, but trust me, these little containers are great because they have a pour spout. And that's how I kept cracking these things, because I would twist them like this to pour them into the mold. And trust me, I broke a lot of them. Okay, so the next step is to just really stir this together. Make sure it's totally and thoroughly mixed in. And I know when I first started doing it, I was panicking that I had to do it so fast. But you do have a little tiny bit of wiggle room. All right, so I am going to show you guys. See it? Okay, so I'm stirring it up. Yep. It's one color now, all mixed in. And I've got quite a bit here. That's a huge casting. And here I go. I'm going to pour it in. And that is literally all you do. Pour it in and keep moving. Get it in all those little grooves. Make sure it went in. I got a couple spots there. So now I'm going to pour that one in, and you'll see that start to turn white.
This doubles as a baking class, but you have to change the products that you use.
Yeah, you can't use these after you. So I measured that based on the numbers that are on the side of the mold, 33 milliliters, and this one is 16. And I have just a hair left, but you can see that start to set up there. Okay, so we're going to give that a few minutes to set up. And then always clean your container right away so that you don't end up with globs of resin in the bottom.
Yeah.
So this is a picture frame that I started working on today. I'm going to show you this one. And this one literally has plaster around it, and this is clay. So I used the same mold, the Trimmings 3 that he used. And I used one of the smaller of the castings because I want to put a giant sunflower up here in the corner. What I found when you're working with these molds and when you're making picture frames, that it's better to use, to not use a ton of color. And the reason being is whatever picture you're going to put in there, you have to know what picture you're going to put in your frame before you do it. But you don't want to use a ton of color and then have the picture and the color that's on the frame actually be competing against each other. Okay, so this is just a Venetian plaster that we had. It's not anything, it's really made for going on walls and stuff, and it's not super dry. You can see some of the cracks. It's not all dry all the way, so it's going to be pretty cracked and it's going to be pretty vintagey looking. There's going to be lots of places for me to put glaze and stuff in when I go to paint this. But right now I want to get my big giant sunflower out and I want to make that it's huge. I'm putting cornstarch inside this mold. The reason being, I don't know if you saw the details on this, but whenever a mold is this detailed, I take a little paintbrush and I put cornstarch in there because I don't want to lose any of this detail. So I'm going to take my clay and soften it up a little bit. This is a fresh pack of clay. So I'm taking this out. Huge casting. Here it comes. Bending my mold. Look at the size of this. I think it's a real life sunflower. It's like almost the size you would expect. Okay, can you see that in there? Can you imagine a sunflower? Look at that. That is gorgeous. So let's cut this extra off. So this is my picture frame before it's got any paint or anything on it. It's just got my sunflower, and it has this casting, which is from, like I said, the brand new Trimmings 3, and all my plaster, which is going to get antiqued, painted, all different, probably I'm going to use a bunch of different metallics, but there's that sunflower. Isn't that huge and gorgeous?
Getting hard.
So I am going to pop out. So here's the resin one, and here's how easy they pop out. And you can see this is a really thick one, and it needs to be glued down really quickly.
Where's my,
It's still pliable. What if this one went here, and then that one, so you'd see that little edge there? I like that. What do y'all think?
And then pushing pressure, rocking, pressure, pressure, more pressure.
You can be very silly.
But so long as I get a straight cut, then I can bring it over to the edge and just pry it down a little bit to open that cut up so I can stick the other utility blade in there and continue cutting down in a slicing effect. And when you do these, I'm trying to keep the same pattern on each end. Sometimes it's better if we go in a nondescript corner where there's no round part. That way there, when you cut the molding, it's not, it's less difficult, let's put it that way.
So we've tried snips and scissors and a knife, And the problem is the resin does get hard right away, and we're trying to do a lot at one time.
Again, the reason I use that knife is so I can get a straighter cut. So you can see the straight edge that the knife makes versus doing it another way. Whoop, I made it just a bit big, didn't I? But that's okay.
It's going to be gorgeous when it's all painted and all done. Going to be absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these little places to put glaze and to put wax or any kind of antiquing you want to do. That's the wonderful things of these castings. The molds are amazing. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and glue those down.
Yeah.
I've got another resin ready to pop out. This is a two-man job. Here I am, ready to pop out another resin.
Okay.
The one that I thought I didn't do the formula right, I shouldn't have second-guessed myself. I did it. Here it is. What do you think, folks? It looks like a wedding cake, doesn't it, everybody? It looks like a wedding cake, a beautiful wedding cake. Like this is frosting, beautiful designs, white is white. So this is how these picture frames come when he makes them. He miters the corners. What do you do back here? What's this called? You bevel this out?
Router it out.
Router this out so that you could fit your picture in there. And then we just put a piece of foam core board.
Okay.
Okay, let's glue this little one down.
What I realize is we can take and use sandpaper for fine-tuning the corners and stuff, which is really very helpful. It's a lot better than holding a knife there and trimming it, jeopardizing your fingers and whatnot.
So,
sweet deal.
You ready? I'm going to show mine. You want to show yours? And we'll say goodbye.
Yeah.
Here we are, folks.
Yep.
With our picture frames. Mine a little off the corner.
Don't try and steal the show here.